Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Sarah Speaks, the podcast where leadership meets purpose, where we grow together in knowledge and wisdom, where we sharpen our skills for impactful living. I am Sarah Esangbedo Ajose Adiogun, and as part of our Winning Big in 2025 series, today I bring you another powerful episode of Sarah Speaks. Today we'll be talking about a very important and powerful subject: emotional intelligence in leadership. Whether you are leading a team, whether you are managing a home, whether you are starting a business, whether you are influencing in any capacity, wherever you find yourself in life, emotional intelligence is key if you are hoping to succeed. So, take a comfortable seat, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of water, get your notepad and your pen, and let's dive right in. What is emotional intelligence? It is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions and that of others. It is your ability to influence the emotions of others by the way you respond or react to issues. Daniel Goleman, the popular emotional intelligence psychologist, gave us 5 steps to emotional intelligence. Number 1, self-awareness. Number 2, self-regulation. Number 3, motivation. Number 4, empathy. And number 5, social skills. If you are able to harness the power of these 5 attributes, you will, to a large extent, increase your emotional quotient and be able to deal with people in an emotionally intelligent manner. And Coleman once said, in the real sense, we have 2 minds. One that thinks and one that feels. And we must be able to employ both minds in a balanced way for us to be able to achieve success. In the book of Proverbs, it tells us that a patient man is better than a warrior, because a warrior that cannot control himself will lead himself to destruction. A patient man is the one that is able to look at situations, look at the environment, and make informed decisions because he's able to restrain and manage himself and understand what is happening. That is what we call reading the room. You must be patient to read the room and thereby give the appropriate response. Emotional intelligence is not just about responding to what is spoken. It's about responding to what is not spoken, what is not heard, what is not seen, but that which is felt. And the man that is able to grow his senses to the point where he can understand what is not said in the room, he can understand the body language, he can understand the eyes, he can understand the feelings. That is an emotionally intelligent man. And if you think back to when we were growing up, our parents were teaching us emotional intelligence. You remember those days when your parents take you out to visit somebody and they ask you, will you eat? Your mom might not say anything, but she will cough. Or when you look at her, she will look at you and throw her face away. That is emotional intelligence. You are reading her response in her body language. She doesn't tell you no. I was watching a comedian the other day and he said his mom would say, eat, go ahead and eat. And he knows that what the mom is telling him is, don't even go there. So our parents in bringing us actually taught us emotional intelligence. But somehow along the way, many of us lost it. But we need to realize that it is important that we get this skill back if we will succeed in leadership and if we will succeed in business. Let me bring this home for us to understand what emotional intelligence really is, working day to day in our organization. In 2008, Starbucks was facing an existential crisis during the financial crisis of 2008. By March 2008, they had to close 600 shops and their profits was on the downward trend. They had already gone down by 28% year on year from 2007. This was a time of extreme tension, like you will know in any organization that is not doing so well. And what did the CEO at that point in time, Howard Schultz, do? What he did was that he went back to understand how the staff were feeling at that point in time, and rather than focus on the financial side of things, he decided to focus on the cultural side. He decided to focus on the soft side. He decided to focus on the emotional side. While they were talking about financial difficulty, he still went ahead to close shops so that the staff could go for training and come back better trained to serve their customers. What did that do? It made the staff realize that they were more important than the dollars in the bank to the organization. And that emotional connection with the staff, letting them know that you are important, I hear you and I see you, was the turnaround strategy that made Starbucks turn around its fortunes and become a profitable organization, growing exponentially more than it had done before the 2008 crisis. Leaders with emotional intelligence are better able to navigate the challenges in the organizational environment. They navigate conflict with grace. They inspire loyalty, and they make better decisions under pressure because they have been able to master themselves, master the emotions, and connect with people to understand how people are feeling and what people expect of them. An author and leadership coach that I respect so much, John Maxwell, puts it this way. He said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Let me say it again. He says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And a very good friend of mine, Steve OJ, always used to use this analogy. He says that when you give your staff your heart, they will give you their hands. The same analogy in different words by two great men, John Maxwell and Steve OJ. You give your staff your heart and they give you their hands. And that is the pathway to success as a leader. And it takes emotional intelligence to be able to connect with that care agenda if you must succeed. Philippians chapter 2 verse 3 to 4 tells us not to do anything out of vain ambition and conceit. Do not be selfish, but rather in love serve one another. That is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Not thinking about yourself only, but looking at how your activities, how your actions will impact on other people. That's where Nigerian leadership needs to start from. A leadership that is not only about yourself, but about the good and impact that your leadership will have on the people. Because if you eschew selfish leadership and you are working for the betterment of the people, they will serve you with all their hearts. They will commit to you. And all these things we talk about, civil servants and corruption and all that, true emotionally intelligent, intentional leadership with purpose and grace, you will find out that we will be to a large extent ameliorate those things when we begin to give consequences for actions, positive and negative. True care. People want to know that you care. And today in Nigeria, we do not feel the care of our leadership. It takes a caring leadership to make a great impact. Let me ask you, how do you respond under pressure? Your ability to pause, take a deep breath, think about the situation, and come up with an appropriate response is part of being emotionally intelligent. People who are emotionally intelligent, they don't react. They respond. They look at all the underlying indices and then they still speak in such a way that they connect with the other person to understand where that person is coming from, to understand what are the issues that this person have, to understand what am I missing, why is this person making this decision, because they know that that connection is what will bring the response that will change the narrative for the better. Do you, as a leader, listen to your team? Or do you dominate the conversation? Are you the most intelligent person in the room? Do you make all the decisions? And then your staff over time learn to just keep quiet and listen. I've worked with such a leader, and all the bright ideas in the room, and all the intelligent people that he attracted to work with him, were all buried because he felt that he knew everything. If you were talking about health, he was the best. Even more than the doctors, even more than the professors, he knew it. If you were talking about justice, he knew it. Legal matters, he was an expert. If you were talking about strategy, oh, he knew it more than everyone. If you were talking about IT, no one could argue with him. You cannot know more than all the experts that you've put in the room. It takes wisdom to pause and listen and learn from those who work for you. It takes humility, and that humility is what bets greatness. That is emotional intelligence. The million-dollar question I will leave you with today is, how do you respond to issues? Do you react before thinking it through? Or do you pause, take a moment to think it through, and then respond appropriately? I leave you to answer that question because you know it more than I do. And that answer should ignite a search on how to better respond to issues so that you get the required and expected outcomes from conversations and from your activities. It begins personal. A few years ago, in one of my leadership and executive roles, I lost a very good ally and a very good staff because I did not read the room. He was looking for validation. He was looking for emotional connection, while I was looking at the bottom line and I was looking at the outcomes and results of our activities. So when he came to me seeking validation, I gave a response which looked at a common sense response, which if you look at it, I did nothing wrong. But when you look at it, now that I look at it, that I'm more emotionally intelligent, I realized that I could have connected more. I could have responded to him in a softer, more careful manner, in such a way that he did not feel like I'd cut him off or like he didn't matter. Yes, his contributions to the team mattered. And I just wondered why he felt so insecure and why he was bringing such a conversation to me at such a high level. And for that reason, I lost an ally and a very good staff. And the result of that has taught me the power of empathy. That empathy is not weakness. Empathy is actually the greatest strength that you can have as a leader. As a leader, to build your emotional intelligence, you must practice reflection. Look at your actions, look at your responses in the course of a day, and always tell yourself how you could have done better. Journal your emotions, journal your responses, and you will find out that over time, you will be able to improve on your responses in such a way that people begin to understand that though you are human, you are also an empathetic and caring person. Ask for feedback, 360-degree feedback. It can be anonymous. Let your staff tell you. Let your children tell you. Let people tell you what they actually think about you and the way you respond and react to issues. Over time, you will find out that you will build yourself up in the emotional intelligence quotient. I used to be a very impatient person, not because I did not care, but because I just felt that we needed to move. Things needed to happen. I am action-oriented. And I thank God for my younger sister, who over time played that empathetic role for my children so that they never felt like I was too abrupt with them. And she created that balance. Many of us are not so lucky. You don't have a spouse or a sibling that will create that balance for you in the areas of your shortcomings. So for you to know your blind spots and work on them so that you don't lose your children, so that you don't lose your business, you need to ask for feedback and work on those areas that are your weaknesses so that you can build up on your emotionality. And then always pause before responding. Many of us respond, and that response can just destroy everything. To preserve your integrity and support team and family cohesion, please practice pausing before responding. Don't respond out of emotion, but respond from a place of understanding. Respond, ask questions before taking a position, and that will better enable you to connect with people, not offend people, not hurt people, and get people to know that as a leader, your role as a parent is actually the role of a leader, that you actually care. Develop active listening. Many of us don't listen actively. We listen to respond. We don't listen to hear. And I've spoken about this before in the way our parents taught us. They taught us to listen, not just with our ears, but with our eyes and with our bodies. We need to cultivate that active listening skills again today, so that especially for your children and for your staff in your business, when they are talking to you, understand the underlying emotion so that when you respond, you address the issues that are often not seen and often not spoken, but that can only be felt, so that they truly, truly, truly feel heard, and they truly feel seen, and they truly feel cared for. I'm a Christian and I always try to bring everything I do, whether business, whether life, under the scrutiny of Christianity. And I learned that Jesus was the ultimate example of emotional intelligence. You will ask how? I'll just give 2 or 3 areas where Jesus showed excellent emotional intelligence. And that helps douse a lot of tension and solve a lot of problems at that point in time. The first one I'll talk about is in John 11, verse 35. Jesus wept. The shortest verse in the Bible, but so impactful because he showed his human side. After weeping, Jesus still went ahead and raised Lazarus from the dead. So why did he weep? Because he knew Lazarus was not going to be in the grave for a long time. But he wept because he empathized with the feelings of those around him, the sadness that he felt. The sisters must have been feeling lost, and he empathized with them. Jesus wept just shows what it means to care and to have emotional intelligence. And it shows us that it's okay to be emotional. All this one that we are forming, I'm a hard man. If Jesus could weep, who are you that you cannot be soft? Jesus wept to show us that it's okay to be emotional. In Matthew 23, we see Jesus rebuking injustice. And there you will see he was like, woe to the Pharisees, woe to the... But why was he so angry? Because the Pharisees were being unjust. He felt that they were putting a whole load on people that did not need to be there, and they were even putting burdens that they couldn't carry themselves. And this injustice so annoyed him. You can go there. It was Jesus empathizing with the people to say, what kind of wahala is this? Why are they putting all these burdens on these people? Well, they can carry this. The stress is too much. Emotional intelligence. He identified with the weakness in us. In Luke chapter 22, Jesus forgave betrayal. When Judas Iscariot betrayed him, he asked him, "Are you betraying your master with a kiss?" Do you understand? He still forgave him. And then in John chapter 21, Jesus restored the broken. If you look at what Jesus did in the well of Samaria, he drank from the pot of the woman of Samaria to make her feel you are not invisible. Even though I am a Jew, I believe you are worthy of salvation. It is emotional intelligence. Jesus led with clarity. Jesus led with compassion. Jesus is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He's also the Lamb of God. Look at the two extremes, showing us that in whatever situation you find yourself, you should be able to take on a role that will enable you meet the needs of the people in that situation. When your children need protection, you are the lion that protects them. They must know that nothing can happen to me because my parents, my mom, my dad, they are standing for me. And they must also know that when I feel lost and broken, I can come home because I know that my parents are there for me. They will embrace me. They will, identify with my weakness. They will not condemn me or drive me away. We need to be able to harness that. And the same thing in our offices. We must know that our staff are human. And we must always learn to know that even though people make mistakes, when it is a genuine mistake, don't kill them for it. Emotional intelligence is key if you will succeed in life and business, because the way you treat one worker today tells the other workers how they will be treated tomorrow, and they will take a stance. And that is why in Nigerian civil service today, the way we treated the permanent secretaries, I think in 1976, when they were all sacked in one day and suddenly they became penniless. People that used to be called super permanent secretaries suddenly became poor men that didn't have a meal. They couldn't put a meal on the table for their children. That is where the decadence we are having today in the civil and public service came from. Because the people that were under them, that were now elevated to permanent secretaries, suddenly knew that for us not to be in the situation that these our super permanent secretaries are in today, that a government can come and sack us tomorrow and we have nothing to fall back on. And that is where they began to get kickbacks and kick fronts to maintain their dignity, whatever happens. We need to go back to the place where people feel cared for, where they know that I'm working for an organization that cares. And no matter what happens, this organization, this government will take care of me. And Pets Kaziro, the Christian author, tells us, he says you cannot be spiritually mature and be emotionally immature. For you to mature in the spirit, you must mature emotionally. Because emotional intelligence speaks to feelings. It speaks to things you can see and things you can hear. How can you mature in the spirit when you cannot mature in the one that is before you here? So many of our spiritual leaders who say they are spiritual leaders and they just react to issues, they are causing, they are crying. We need to check. Emotional intelligence must come before spiritual intelligence. You must be able to mature emotionally if you will mature spiritually. And if you look at the book of Galatians chapter 5 verse 22 to 23, where Apostle Paul talks about the fruits of the Spirit. If you just look at the fruits of the Spirit, it is the fruits of the Spirit that equates to emotional intelligence. It talks about peace, joy, love, forbearance. Forbearance is patience, kindness. Be kind to people. When you respond in kindness, you find out that it's difficult for you to offend people because you are kind. It talks about goodness, gentleness, self-control. Those attributes are the attributes of emotional intelligence. And in subsequent podcasts, we will talk about the role of these fruits of the Spirit in business success. Because everything is aligned. The principles do not fail. For you to succeed, you need emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, you can birth as fruits of the Spirit. But for you to get the fruits of the Spirit, you must be able to take ownership and control of yourself. Self-awareness, discipline is all intertwined. And at the end of the day, leadership is not about the title that you own. You can have a title, well done, but you are not the leader in that organization. That is why, as a leader, you must identify those in your organization who the people defer to, who the staff respects, who, when they say something, people hold on to it. Those are the true leaders. For you to truly lead your organization, you have to be the one that the staff look up to. Not necessarily by title, but by influence. How influential are you in the organization that you lead? What will your staff do for you? That tells you how impactful you are as a leader. If you want to grow your leadership impact, you must grow your emotional intelligence. You must lead from the heart. You must show that you know your onions. Your wisdom must be felt in that organization. And most of all, I believe that you must be grounded in faith. That faith does not necessarily speak to your faith in religion. It speaks to your faith in life. You must know where you are going. You must have a vision to get there. And you must have a hope that it is possible to get there. And you must put in the work that is required to make it happen. That's all for today in our episode of Sarah Speaks. And the take home for us here is that for you to succeed as a leader, you must be able to connect with the people that you lead. And that connection is what will drive the success of your organization and how well you are able to lead in your home, in your business, in your career, in your organization. People will never give you their hands if you do not, before that, give them your heart. They must know that you care. And like John Maxwell said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So let's begin to show how much we care to all those that we lead, so that at the end of the day, they will follow us and help us to birth the success that we have envisioned as a person and as an organization. If this spoke to you, please share it with a fellow leader. Share it with those you work with. And remember that leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most connected person in the room. And it's about being the largest heart in the room. Until next time on Sarah Speaks, thank you very much. Like our video, post your comments and questions, we will connect with you. And much more than that, keep leading with grace. Thank you very much.